Welcome back to Blender for Blogs. I'm Justin, and we are using Blender to edit videos for our blogs. If you don't know what I'm talking about, head over to YouTube, type Blender Frenzy. You can also go to blenderfrenzy.com to get a whole bunch of free downloadables to follow along with the series. Okay, so last time what we did was this little animation, moving this little guy from here to the middle so that we could do this wipe transition just like that. Wiped from the image sequence and the background to the original footage down here. And then we also did this little added a little color strip for a little outtakes. So right when, let me go ahead and just hide these for a second. So if you can see right when it jumps, this is what we had cut out very early on in our editing process. So I just wanted to hide that or mask it using this little white thing. And then I also added a little sound. This. Boop. And then just like that, I just recorded myself saying boop. So I didn't do that last time. I didn't show you how to do that. But basically, I just use Audacity. You can use any sound editing software and then just record yourself saying whatever you want to do for your outtakes, if you want to do outtakes. And I just lined them up just like that. It's pretty easy. And then remove. If you know, Blender actually sees the camera is looking down through the channels this way. So there's like an invisible camera right up here looking down. If I put my timeline cursor here, it's going to look and it's going to see the white one first, and then it's going to see all the other ones underneath it. So if I go ahead and hide the white, then it sees the next video. Obviously, audio doesn't have any video qualities, so hiding the color strip there, it'll see to this, and if I hide this, it'll see to the background that I have. So that's kind of how it works. All right, and that is all we did. So let's get into this tutorial, which is all about transparencies or fake transparencies. So let's go up here to our markings and zoom out a little bit. And remember, these are all the markings that we have for upcoming things that we want to put in. And we are here now, so let's zoom back in here. So we just did our original footage, and here's that little boop that we did. And the next thing we have is our transparency. So we've got transparency, and then we want to add in a background. So that's going to look something like this. And then remove your green screen, add a new background, and then reposition yourself in order to show us that lovely, lovely view. So that is basically the gist of this tutorial, but we're going to be talking about fake transparencies, and we're going to be talking a little bit about cropping. Okay, so let's go back to our mix one. But what I want to do is give the illusion that there is transparency. I don't want to have this background there now. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about creating a fake transparency. But before we do that, I'm going to talk about another way to create a fake transparency. And this is from our video where we did the fades. So fading from or to black. And just a quick refresher of how I did the fade. I'm just going to go ahead and add in a effect strip, color, and then what we had done was we had come over to an area here that was all black here and hit render. Now remember, render is going to just render out the single frame. If you hit animation, it will render out the whole frame range. So I just want this single frame rendered. So I'm going to hit render, and then I'm going to go over to my rendering. And here we go. This is the transparency. And then I just saved it as an image and saved it to, oops, let's go up here. Saved it to our image here as an alpha. And if I hit the thumbnail view up here, here's the alpha, and it basically just renders a completely transparent image, so nothing is shown. So when I import it in, so if I cancel that, I already did that. So let's go back over here. Oops, I want to Shift B and then zoom. And select this, and then, oh, actually, I need to import. So Shift A, add an image, and let's go back to our, oops, our alpha. So I'm going to bring that in. And now I need to change the blend mode from cross to overdrop. So now, again, it's completely transparent. Select this one, Shift select the alpha, Control A to add an effect strip cross. And then I need to make sure that cross is selected and replace to overdrop again here. So now I have black and then it fades from here to a completely transparent image. And that is how I usually do my fades. And the reason I do that is because I can drag this and make the fade longer or shorter, or I can just come here and take the whole thing and just move it around wherever I want that fade. So that is how I did it in the video, and I got this comment from Rob Davis, who says, I was amazed and horrified by your render alpha PNG hack. So I tried a few things and found you can add a color, spelled wrong, in its place and use the image offset to place it off the visible area. The crossfade now dutifully fades from source color, spelled wrong, to the alpha left behind by having the destination's visible pixels be off screen. FYI, I love the series. Well, thank you, Rob Davis, for that comment, and I want to show you what he's talking about. So basically, instead of creating this alpha image and saving it and then importing it, what you can do is just create a color strip and then duplicate that color strip. And let's zoom in here a little bit. And then what we want to do is take this second one here, because we're going to fade to this one. We're going to move it. Now, what I had tried before was just making the opacity to go down like that. And then I did this and added in a cross. And I thought, oh, this is going to work. Make sure the cross is overdrop as well. But the problem with that is it doesn't fade. It just stays black and then it boom, all of a sudden. And then if I bring the opacity down for the cross, then instead of coming in over here, it comes in right here. And again, no fade, it goes on. So I thought, well, I can't do that. So I just kind of gave up on the whole color strip. But what he said was to select the color strip and then go to image offset and basically take this, and let's bring the opacity back up just a second so you can see what's going on. So I can take this and I can actually move it up or down. Oh, actually, sorry, I need to make that sure that's overdrop. Okay, there we go. So now I can move this up or down or side to side, whatever, just move it off screen somehow. And since I have 1080 pixels going on the Y direction, I'm just going to type in 1080 here, and that'll move it up 1080, which is completely off screen. And you can see that it's completely transparent. And now if I add a cross between these and make that overdrop, you can now see, oh, it actually does the fade. So now I don't actually have to make a whole transparent image and then import it in. I could just make two color strips. And if I wanted to reverse this, all I'd have to do is make sure everything is deselected here, and B, select, Shift D to duplicate that. And then I'm going to delete the cross and just make sure I just switch these. Shift select here. In that order, remember the first one, Shift select the second one. Shift A, cross, and now I have a fade to black, or I should have a fade to black. Why do I not have a fade to black? Oh, because this is still, make sure your blend mode is overdrop, of course. And now I have a fade to black. Fade from black and fade to black. And I can even change the color here. So if I change the color, now I know from a distance, oh, this is a fade to or from white. This is a fade to or from black. So that is really, really handy. And I thought that was really genius, Rob. So thank you so much for your comment. And it's so good, in fact, that I will forgive you for misspelling color. No, I'm just teasing. I know that since I'm a U.S. citizen, I'm the one who actually spells color wrong. So, all right. So anyway, that was the first fake transparency. Now I want to show you the second fake transparency. So I'm just going to delete these here. And by the way, I saved this to 504. It was 503 last time. Make sure you're saving your iterations if you are doing it the same workflow that I'm doing. So I'm going to actually just save it again. Maybe a little bit redundant. Anyway, okay, page up here because I want to go right here. And now here is the effect for the second fake transparency.
And then remove your green screen.
And that would be this right here. And you can see this is an apparent transparent background or a fake transparent background. And the reason I say that is because real transparency, obviously, you can't see because it's transparent. So there would be nothing here. So if you're familiar with 3D software or video editing software at all, you know that the indicator for transparency is this gray checker background. And that just indicates in the software that there is transparency here. Now, if I actually render the transparency, so if we go back over here to where there's nothing, this is actually technically transparent. There are no strips here, but you can see that this is actually black. And the reason this is black is because any image rendered or video rendered with only transparency will render out black. And that's why you have that here. So if I go and hit render again, and then I go to my just rendering, even though I see this checker background, and I go to image and save image as, going to our graphics again and hitting the thumbnails up here. So this is the alpha, this is the full transparency. That is with this RGBA selected. So you have that alpha there and a PNG. If I were to select just the RGB, which is just the color, no alpha, then it would render black right here. And so that's what I've done for both of these. So just saving this image isn't going to work. So I'm going to hit cancel. The way I get around this is if you're using Windows, what you can do is take the snipping tool and just snip out this color here. And there we go. And then save it to your desktop and go back to our video editing. And if we come in over here, let's zoom in, page down, and I'm just going to add it right here. So add in an image, and we want our checkerboard, and that's what I saved. And of course, I'm going to have to grab that on the Y, bring it down, and you can see since now this is between the background here and my image sequence here, it just shows between those here. It's not real transparency because then it would be all black, but it gives you the illusion that I've removed the green screen, which is what I was just doing, see?
And remove your green screen.
Just like that.
Add a new background.
And we're going to add a new background here in a second too. But before we do that, I'm going to show you how to do the same thing we just did if you don't have the snipping tool. So if you're not using Windows, you're a different operating system or different hardware or whatever, maybe you don't have this. So I'm just going to hide that, page back down. And I'm just going to go back to my rendering here where I have my checkerboard. Okay, so in this case, if I didn't have the snipping tool, what I'd do is just make sure I just did a shift spacebar to make this full screen. This and by the way, I'm hovering over this. So if I hovered over this one, shift spacebar would just make whatever panel I'm hovering over full screen. So make sure you're over this, shift spacebar. And then what I'll do is I'll take a screenshot of just this. So just follow the buttons on your keyboard, whichever keyboard you have, to do a print screen. It should say print screen or PRNT SCR, something like that. And I'll give you a little tip too. Usually if you do Alt, if you're again using Windows, if you do an Alt print screen, it'll only print the active window that you have. And it won't print everything, which is really nice and useful in a lot of situations, such as this one. Okay, so I did that, and then if you are in Windows or if you have just really rudimentary paint software, you just take your screenshot you just did and paste it here. I'm going to zoom out a little bit here. And then what I can do is I can just select, just like I did with my snipping tool, and then crop. Again, this is in Paint, which is in Windows, which again, you don't need to do this because you have the snipping tool, if you have the snipping tool. If you can't crop it in an image software, or if you can't crop it with your snipping tool, I'm going to show you how to crop it in Blender. So let's say we just took this, this screenshot here, which we did. And, oh, actually, you know what? I need to save that. So let's bring Paint back up. Save it to your desktop, however you save it to your desktop. And then I will just save. I actually have already done that for checkerboard too, so I'm not going to do that again. And Shift Spacebar again. Go back to video editing. And if I do Shift A to add in an image, checkerboard 2. And there we go. We have our full screenshot there. Now, the easiest way to do this in this instance is to make sure this is selected and check Image Crop. And then if you start dragging the top, it'll stretch it and crop that at the same time. So do that. Do the bottom, same thing, stretch and crop. And the right, stretch and crop. And the left, stretch and crop. So that is the easiest way to do that. Grab on the Y, bring that down. Voila, you have the same exact thing. Now, I want to show you something else with the cropping tool because it's not always this easy, especially when you need to use the image offset, and I'm going to show you what I mean. So I'm going to click image offset now, and you can see what it's done. It hasn't stretched anything, but it actually has cropped it. And I'm going to change that to overdrop so you can see that there. So if I move this here, it's done the cropping just like you would normally expect. However, we would need to scale this image up, which you could do by adding an effect strip, transform, which you would also need to do overdrop. Always have to do that. It's a little tedious. Click uniform scale, and then just scale that up. So you could do it that way. But that seems easy enough. But let me show you what happens if I don't do the crop before I do the image offset. So I'm just going to get rid of all of these here. Just bring those back to 0. I just did 0, tab, 0, tab, 0, tab on all those. And then I'm just going to do 0, tab, 0, and then enter. Here we go. So here's what it was like originally. And if I hit image offset, it's going to show the image at its original size. Now, this could be smaller than your resolution. It could also be bigger than your resolution. In this case, it's smaller, which is good. So let me just start cropping this now. So if I have image offset and image crop checked, and then I start cropping from the top, it does exactly like what you would expect. I'm cropping from the top down. So there we go, just like that. But now if I start cropping from the bottom, it does something weird. It basically looks like it's moving it down. And you're like, what in the world is going on? Same thing from the right. So if I do it from the right, crops it just like you would expect. But then if I crop from the left, it looks like it's just moving it over to the left. And this was really, really confusing to me when I first started because let me just demonstrate this with a color. So make sure this is overdrop here. And if I do image offset and image crop, and I start cropping the top, that works just like normal. Oh, okay, I'm cropping the top. Cool. Now I want to crop the bottom. Oh no, I want to crop the bottom. Why is the top? No, what is going on? Okay, crop the right. Okay, crop the left. No, crop the. What is? No. Oh. Argh. So it's so wooden and it's so counterintuitive. It's just like, why does it have to be like this, Blender? Why? But anyway, what's happening? If I move this, you can see it actually has cropped. But what it does is it crops from this point down here. So it always crops from the bottom left corner. So you're cropping here and here, and then you'd have to move it. So if I want to crop the left, I actually have to crop it in this way so it moves the whole picture into the right or into the left, and then I would move it like this. Again, really, really tedious. Show you again here with this one, just to make it a little bit more apparent. I'm sorry if this is too, redundant, but again, I just want to make it very clear what's happening here so that you're not confused, because it is really confusing. So let's do 0 at the left. Okay, and then let's do also 0 at the bottom here. It's easier at the bottom. So if I crop the top, you can see it's like normal. If I crop the bottom, what it does is it leaves the bottom there, and then it moves the whole picture down into the bottom. And that's how it crops it. Which again, it just seems so backwards. Why don't it just have the center be the crop point? And I wonder, maybe there is a way you can move the cropping point to the center. I have no idea. Anyway, so just know that it moves the whole picture down to crop, and then the same thing, the whole picture over to the left to crop. And then if it's, not in the place you want, you're just going to have to do the image offset there. Just like that. So just keep that in mind. I wanted to make sure I covered that in depth because, again, it can be really confusing. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to use the one, I'm just going to delete this because I'm going to use this one, which I made already, because that one works just fine with the snipping tool. Okay, so where do I want this?
Add a new background.
Okay, so remove the green screen and add a new background where it says, stick 'em up, man, right there. Add a new background. Let's see. So Shift S to snap that there. I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to save it as an iteration again.
Add a new background.
Refresh my sequencer here.
Add a new background.
Yeah. Okay, so now for my add a new background, because remember, in our markings here, we have our transparency here that we want to put in, which was what we did, and then we want a background. And I'm actually going to change this to beach background because I want this to be a beach background. All right, so go back to my mix, page down, and add in an image. Add in an image. Can't speak English. A beach background right there. Grab that, move that down. Here we go. And stretch that out here.
Add a new background, and then reposition yourself in order to show us that lovely, lovely view.
Okay, and so to reposition yourself, remember we did that little animation here, from here to here. And make sure you are in your dope sheet here, right there. And this is the dope sheet down here, and my regular timeline is just here under it. If I drag that up, basically I just drag that down. I have the timeline and then the dope sheet right above it. I just drag that down right over this little panel here, or this little menu bar. And where is that actually? If I select this, you can see our keyframes. Here we go. Here's our keyframes from here to here, sliding. So I want to do the same thing, but in reverse. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I select, make sure everything's deselected, hitting A a couple times where they're both white. And then if I shift select each of those, and then I shift D to duplicate those and move those here. Okay, so I've actually found out that I have to have this one selected since it's going to be over here. And the keyframes are here with this one because these are the same image sequence. I just cut a little bit out of that. But because I'm going to be adding some more over here, it gets confused. Apparently, I don't know, I'm just learning this as I go right now. But make sure whichever strip you're going to be actually having that animation on, make sure that's selected before you duplicate these. So I'm going to select these, Shift D to duplicate. And I think I know why. I think it's because when I cut these, it duplicates everything. And so even though they look like they're the same, so this, see, yep, these are still selected here. And when I click over this, these are not selected, but these are selected. So these are just copies of this. So if I move stuff over here, it's not going to necessarily affect this. Okay, good. I'm glad we've got that situated. So make sure this one's selected. I'm going to zoom out so I can see my timeline cursor. I'm going to go right where I said reposition yourself here. And then I'm going to grab those and move them in the general vicinity, and you can see how it's working. But if I just leave it here and hit 0 to center the cursor and control middle mouse to zoom in, grab and put the first keyframe here. If I play this, it's actually going the wrong way. So
reposition yourself.
I don't want that. I want it to go the opposite. So from the middle to here. So what we're going to do is flip this one over using this as an axis, flip this one over here, right here. So to do that, make sure you're on the same frame as the keyframe, and you can also see that this turns yellow. If that's not on there, it's not yellow, it's green. But now we've got the keyframe here. We're directly on that, and we want to make sure both of these are selected, and just both of those, so not any of these. So just what you're going to be flipping. And you're going to hit S to scale, and then hit -1. And it just flips, hit enter. Now this keyframe stayed there, and we moved this one over and pivoted around that. So now it goes
and then reposition yourself
just like that. Now it goes the right way that we want it to go. I'm just going to grab this and maybe move it out just a little bit more like this because I want to reposition that.
And then reposition yourself in order to
there we go, just like that.
And then reposition yourself in order to show us that lovely.
And now, since this keyframe is -453 because it's a copy of this other one over here. Oh, where'd it go? See, this is what I mean by Blender being dumb. What happened? Where are my keyframes? Did I hit something? Did you guys see me hit something? Okay, I'm just going to undo that. Oh, that's that. I have no idea what I just did. Oh, man. Oh, whoop, there we go. Oh, I have no idea. I don't know what just happened. Maybe if you can leave a comment and let me know if you know what I did to make those disappear. I guess I could have just refreshed everything, but all right. Well, there you go. I'm going to save this as another iteration just in case there. Okay. So I like that there.
Reposition yourself in order to show us that lovely view. That beautiful, peaceful, relaxing view.
So right when I say or, I'm going to cut that out. Cut it out. So somewhere right around here. Right on that.
Or maybe
refresh sequencer.
Or maybe you're teaching your audience.
There you go. So I'm going to end it there, and then I'll put some more stuff here in the next video, and I'll add a little sound here, little waves crashing on the shore or some birds or something like that. And I'll show you how to do that in the next video. But for now, this is it. I'm going to save that again. And let's kind of just see what we have so far.
Learn how to take your original footage like this, cut out everything that you don't want like this, boop, and then remove your green screen, add a new background, and then reposition yourself in order to
There you go. So that is what we have so far. And we will pick up where we left off in the next video. Stay tuned.